Right. I want to be sensitive to everybody's time, so thank you all for coming. We could have a roll call, please.
Trustee Rubin?
Yes.
Trustee Hallwine?
Yes.
Trustee Mealopoulos?
Yes.
All righty, so we go. At this time, anyone care to make public comment? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move on to consideration of the minutes. Anybody have a comment? If not, if I could have a motion to approve them. Second. All those in favor? Aye. That passes, which brings us to Margaret. Please.
Thank you. So this evening, we're gonna go through our March treasurer's report with all of our usual items. We can move ahead to the next slide. So let's start off with the property taxes. So, on your financial reports, we have with the $2.1 million that was for 2025, the second installment, the prior year is less by $919,000, which would put us at 36.6% of budget. But backing out those, what where we're really at, is less than prior by 3.1 million, which is about 20.6% of our budget. The disbursements in February and March, we still are waiting for the Cook County portal to be updated. We still do not have reports to dictate exactly what years those are going to. But I did want to note that in the beginning of April, which will be on next month's financial report, we have received some larger disbursements we believe are the first installments for 26. And that's equivalent to about $3.96 million across to all of the police pension, general, and debt and fire funds.
So net, we're gonna be close to budget here.
Yes, correct. We budgeted $6.4 million about in February and March of 26. And so we collected 3.96 of that. That's about 61% of the total for this part of the year. Moving on to state income tax, it's just more than prior year by $15,000 and at 24.4% of budget, which is right on target. We're looking for 25% this month. And then sales tax is more by $65,000. And that would be for December sales. That puts us at 25.6% of our budget. One note, we did receive our first installment of grocery tax today, and it was $6,665.34. There was a note put out recently by the state that some places were incorrectly collecting the grocery tax. So they've been working with entities to make sure they're fully aware of how and what they need to be doing for that tax, because it's still the same process if it goes to the state and then it's dispersed to the village, just like it used to be.
And that's the first payment, is that a full, what period of time does that cover?
So our understanding is that it's like the sales tax, it's 3 months prior, so it'd be from January. We're not quite sure because of the reporting yet, if that's the total of it, or if that's just a portion of it.
It's gonna be a portion.
I think it's gotta be a portion that's very
Yes,
small.
a portion.
And then that's also gonna be included, reported in our sales tax line
Okay.
item. Okay, so we're denoting it in our sales tax fund, so we can look at it with an aggregate until I'll give you guys an update on that.
Yeah,
and
because
we know more about it.
1%, that's $600,000.
Correct.
That's
Yeah.
three. They close the lights in a minute. It's $200,000 a year.
Right.
A month.
Yeah.
And then sales tax, parking fees, ambulance fees, garbage service fees, sewer charges, vehicle licenses, and E911 surcharges were all higher than prior year in the monthly budget, which is a good story there.
And vehicle licenses are actually performing better this year in terms of renewals.
They are over 50% collected. I know that Sammy was gonna do another social media push out. I know it's been in the e-news as well. And we've done well with pet stickers as well. We really think that the change has been people are paying with their credit card, doing that QR code.
Mhm.
So they're doing it right when they get it, I think is the case. We've seen there was a lot of people that bought it like initially, and then it's kind of been steady since then.
Good.
Moving on to our expenditures, so they're more than prior year, but right on target at 24.8% of the budget. Looking at our annual revenue projection for the general fund, revenue only versus budget. We are currently at $3.3 million due to that 25 tax receipt. If you back that out, we're at $1.2 million. And just a note I pulled for you all, we do have a number of items on our financial projection spreadsheet that are projected right now coming in higher than budget. So that includes sales tax, building permits, garbage service fees, sewer charges, vehicle licenses, and the E911 surcharges, and also other revenue, which includes a lot of interest earned. So that's what's pushing this number to be up higher. As we get farther in the year, we continue to look at those projections and make sure that they're accurate and adjust them as necessary. Looking at our surplus versus deficit of the expense of revenue, we are currently at $421,000. We do have that planned drawdown of the general fund of $2.2 million. With taking the 25 property tax receipts out, we're at about $1.7 million. So again, that's related to the projections being a little bit higher for those items. Fund reserves at month end are $12.1 million or 44%. Moving on to the water fund, volumetric revenue is higher than prior year at 15.2% of budget and projecting about $48,000 higher than last year. Again, that's a timing issue as we get into irrigation season and as the bills come out, which are 3 months at a time, we'll see that percentage increase. Fixed charge revenue is higher than prior year at 20.5% of budget and projected about $7,000 higher than last year. Our expenditures are at 19.1% of budget, which is just fine. And then we have with revenue only versus the budget, we're at about positive $63,000. Adding in the expenses, we're at $2.6 million due to those planned bond proceeds that we're going to be issuing this year. And we do have still that $1.8 million fund reserve for the planned drawdown. And then fund reserves at month end are $5.6 million or 93% of budget. This evening, I'm going to go through the golf financials for you. And then Monica's going to provide you a clubhouse update in just a moment here. So for the financials, these notes are from Stella. 350 golfers took advantage of several warm days in March, pushing revenues to 53% over budget. Senior membership sales were strong, 300 cards sold, and over $300,000 in permanent tee time program reserves were received, which is 105 over the annual budget. These are prepaid golf tee times that play for 19 consecutive weeks beginning the first weekend in May, so that's good news. One other note related to financials is just a reminder that we did budget lower revenue, knowing that there will be some impact from construction this year. So it's good news that we're above budget, but we also did budget lower than last year.
So one note to make though relative to that was we did that last year as well, and we still ended up with significantly more rounds played than we would have anticipated in a normal year. So we may still find that in 2026, even without the clubhouse fully functional for the majority of the season, but we'll see.
I'll pass it on to Martha.
All right, so for construction, within the building, the basement floor slab has been poured, which is an exciting accomplishment, but they're continuing on the exteriors and the roofing with progress through there. We did see, and we included a photo of it in the Friday report, mock-up of what that stone is going to be looking like. So our architects were able to review and comment and provide any alterations to the total finish there. And then for the site work, the geothermal work is complete, which is a significant progress. Now we'll be able to access that north field and be able to start the storm drainage pond and the utility work on that north side of it as well. They are starting to lay the sidewalk and concrete work on the surrounding area for the site work. I will say the food trailer is up and running. We all ate there, and I would encourage you all to try it. I think they've actually been doing really well, and I think that speaks for themselves. The food was great, and Stella was pleased with how well they were selling food. So it's encouraging.
Yeah, can you provide an update on, I think there was some permit loose ends a couple of months ago we talked about. I'm just curious where we stand with the varying agencies and permits.
There's a revision to the plans that is going to be submitted for permit. So We have submitted to MWRD those revised plans. I don't know that it's a revised permit, but it's just their review and acceptance of those changes. A lot of those were communicate with them as field changes, but this is just a formality. With Cook County, we did submit an official permit revision. So that was submitted on Monday of this week. And we'll be going through that process. We've received a couple comments from them already.
There's no indication that he'll have any
No,
issues or.
not so far. I mean, mostly the comments were just about the completeness of this middle so far, but none of the changes were that significant or impactful. So we're optimistic that we're not going to get a ton of comments from that. Not really any interior changes either, which may have been a more complex ripple effect. So. Mhm.
Thank you. So moving on to our other funds, debt service, we haven't made our first interest payment. That will be in May on the board agenda. To make sure we make those payments by June 15th. Capital projects expenditures are at 9.4% of budget, so just starting to spend those funds there. MFT, we also have very minor spend there, but I know there's things coming in pipeline that Monica will talk about related to MFT. And then our pension funds are right on target at 25% of police and 25% for fire. Personnel, so we just have our regular update that the increases related to cost of living increases and filling vacant positions. And then I'd like to just give you a very brief update on our cap and class request for proposal that was received and where that stands, and it will be on the board agenda on Thursday. This is given from Katie for this evening. So the cap and class study was launched this year. The RFP was launched this year in accordance with the Workplace of Excellence strategic goal. The village's last study was completed in 2015, and many changes in public sector compensation structures have been introduced since that time. The purpose of the study is to remain at the forefront of meaningful compensation structure for the organization and to best employ its finite resources to ensure excellent staff attraction and retention. Staff reviewed 11 proposals, ultimately choosing McGrath Human Resources Group as the most qualified vendor within the budget. They are out of Jamestown, Tennessee. I do believe they used to be here in Chicago, Illinois. And then along with the study, McGrath will also support the village in a benefit study and a merit and bonus structure policy as well. The budget was $45,000 for this, and McGrath costs are $35,450 with an allowance of $5,000 for travel, but only what is incurred. So we probably won't use that full $5,000. They can do a lot of it remotely. Are there any questions? Moving on then to our economic indicators. So just still with the Middle East conflict, we are expecting commodity costs to be affected. Fuel costs are still increasing, especially the diesel fuel that's affecting public works and public safety. Due to chip costs rising, IT is seeing an increase in IT hardware. Other notes from the treasurer's report were that we have had some hard time getting contractors started recently, and I think that was it for the update for economics. Oh, and then still having issues with public safety hiring. Good news is we did just recently offer and have 2 officers or soon to be officers finish the pre-employment process, and they'll be starting on next Monday, the 20th. We have 1 vacancy left to fill. And so just that continues to be a challenge, but there's going to be interviews starting, I think.
Those are entry level officers, so they'll be going to the police academy starting on May 4th.
Can we back up for a second?
Yeah.
You said you're having trouble getting your contractors to get started. Just because diesel is high?
No, I think just because of their.
I've heard
the
staffing, there's some of them are struggling to get enough
People.
Yeah, we're back to like labor issues again.
Yeah.
Public safety was talking about it. I'm not quite sure. Bandy gave me any detail of what was causing the issue, but of like starting. He was talking about getting projects started, that it was being a challenge.
Well, I think it's generally is same issue we're having. It's the same thing where there's a limited number of people who are in the trades. everybody has a ton of work. So everybody's getting in line. So.
And moving on, our commodities are higher than prior year and at 27% of budget, so just a touch over budget this time of the year. And then contractual services are higher than prior year at 17.6%. So we'll just watch that commodity number as those, and see what those effects are and report out to you on those. For the audit update, the final presentation is scheduled for June. The audit did go to their management, Lauterbach and Amon, who reviewed it and gave us back some comments of just items that they want to double check and look over, but everything's looking really good. And the big thing is that they're waiting for some IMRF reporting that will come later this month that they can then wrap up and give us some more detailed draft of it. There's also some changes that are occurring for the management discussion letter, the MD&A, that were because of GASB changing, rules changing. And so they're going to incorporate that into the review process coming up soon, and we'll be going through that in more detail. But everything's looking really good with the audit.
What changed in gas?
So how they're reporting out in the management discussion letter, usually that management discussion letter talks a lot about like operational costs and it's very high level, and I think they're trying to add some more easily digestible formats for the general public to understand where the spend is at. It's probably been a while since you looked at the MD&A, you're not reading it all the time, but it's very, very high level, talks a lot about like the government summary versus the business summary, and talks about why they're increasing or decreasing. And to the normal, person on the street, just trying to make it a little bit more digestible.
We'll see.
I'm glad you gave him a real answer. I was just gonna tell him that change 1 and 1 is no longer equal to 2.
Exactly.
GASB is a complicated set of structure.
It is.
Many years ago, I did a big accountant malpractice case, went on for 3 months, federal court. And some people, it was during the summer, and some people stumbled in while this is going on, and you could see witnesses talking, court reporters going like this, and it was, to anyone walking in, Mandarin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, these rules come out there. It's usually every year in November and December, they do like a 4 to 5 hour training on this. And me and Nikki hunker down and sit there and listen to.
What number are we up to on GASB?
Oh, I think it's at like 103 now.
Yeah.
It's getting up
I
there.
remember when it was GASB 34, and they just keep making these changes to it. But I firmly believe that it's just a small enough change that the forensic accountants feel like they really have
Yeah.
that chance to find the crazy new little word that's in the
Yeah.
entirety of it. But
Last year, one of the GASBs was to basically say to make your reporting more digestible in general.
Yeah.
If you asked
Without
our auditor,
Without guidelines, just make it more digestible.
it gives you guidelines, but when you read the guidelines, you already do most of it. So it's more just like Phil says, like tailoring it down to make sure somebody's got the right word in there, so. And every year they expand upon that.
It's digestible.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
a little more digestible.
It kind of.
Because we all know you're reading it
Worried
very
about
carefully.
AI and they need to
They
make
are.
a living.
That's
Yeah.
true. It's true.
All right, and if there's no questions, then I'll pass it on to Monica for your CIP. Yep.
All right, so I have a lot to go over today, but I'll try to keep it brief. So the items going to the board this week are the 2026 water main replacement for Milton Bluff and Grove. This is the construction administration contract. We're going to be utilizing Strand. They are the original designers of the project. Last year we used HLR, if you can remember. Strand was not available, so we didn't have to go with HLR. But this year they do have the capacity to take on the project, so they'll be utilizing their services to help keep that project running smoothly. The residential sidewalk repair and replace and the ADA pedestrian crossing improvements. That is for a total of $225,000. We had budgeted $250 overall in the budget between those two projects. But some of the funds for the ADA pedestrian crossing improvements will be utilized for the water main project because we are doing ADA crossing pedestrian enhancements as part of that project. And that's kind of how we had intended is to be able to utilize it across projects and then award this comprehensive contract with the remaining funds. The pavement rejuvenation contract, this is through our MPI coordination, and so that contract is for $30,000, and that's the rejuvenation to the streets that helps inject more oils to help our streets last longer that were recently resurfaced in 22 and 23. The last purchase approval, or I guess there's two more. So equipment, this is for the mechanical lift for Service Bay 3. We're going to be purchasing mobile is the right word, but movable, lift for Service Bay 3 with the thought that if that building does get moved, we would be able to relocate it to the new facility. And so that purchase is for $66,000. The last approval just got updated today. This is for the golf course driving range tee renovation for a total do not exceed of $225,000. So with the shift of parking lots, the entire driving range tee needs to be restored. I guess the rough grading is there with the clubhouse construction. So this is for the final grading and restoration. Any questions on those approval?
What, the tee box, I mean, is that all moving, shifting, dealing with dirt and et cetera? I mean, there's no pavement on it.
There is no pavement. It is the fine grading. There's some like stone areas for the actual tee boxes, and then and I am not an expert, so this is me listening in on the overall construction process. There's some areas that will be restored with sod. There's some areas that will be restored with specific grass. And so it's a fairly prescriptive process just because of how the golf course.
It's tiered. It has quite a bit of drainage requirements that tie back into it. Which I think is a significant portion of the overall cost of that earthwork. As I had shared with with all of you, I think the bids came back much higher than we expected, and there was some work done to sharpen pencils and adjust. So the golf club team will be doing some of the work that otherwise would have been included in this contract, but we've been able to source the additional resources that are needed for it. They're going to delay a few items that are in the budget or reduce some to help offset that cost as well. But it's one of those projects that's more complex than it seems like it should be. Because it's basically flat land that you hit a golf ball off of. But because of the nature of that particular location, additional irrigation, additional drainage, additional earthwork, and then there's specialty sods that have to be integrated into it. So
is this part of the 18 million that we?
This is outside of the clubhouse project
Okay.
itself, though it is an interrelated one, but this is budgeted within the golf course's operating funds.
Thank you.
I do think that one of the things Stella and I had a conversation with, as we are looking at some of these types of projects on a going forward basis, I think we are seeing an escalation in the cost tied a bit to what we were talking about a bit ago, which is there's just not a whole lot of contractors that are doing this work. And so fewer contractors with fewer people in the first place, it just is pushing those costs up. So we're going to have to make some adjustments. We do have the first tee box reconstruction. A lot of that's probably going to be deferred to next year rather than doing it this year. I think that's going to be something that we have to look at and understand where those costs are going to be and whether it's going to be a similar problem that we want to consider differently or a different approach. So that's going to be a piece of what Stella and her team are looking at differently as we get set for 27's budget.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that's a good segue into the schedule impacts for the CIP. I'll start off with that. So the first tee renovation, we've pushed that back in the schedule all the way until July, but theoretically that may not happen until next year. So I think we're just pushing that out, see where we're at with the financing the funds and see if it's a feasible project to do this year, if we're gonna push it out into 2027. Also with the golf course projects, another CIP item was the just purchase of equipment. Usually we source used equipment. This year, we're having a hard time finding good used equipment at a price that we want to see. So
Everybody else buying it.
yeah, so we have not, that CIP item's not ready for board approval just because we haven't been able to source it. So that's also being shifted in the project schedule. Some other updates, it's the Wesley Road multi-use path engineering. So we had put in the schedule to do some public outreach in March, which was accomplished. We held a public meeting on March 20th. We talked about not only the Wesley Road feasibility study, but also the driving range netting and the buckthorn removal, explaining how those projects are related, but also completely separate. Got some good feedback from the residents on the feasibility study though. There was a unified voice of they want a path on the north side. And they want it to be meandering through the trees, which, is wonderful, but I think we need a bit more on the north side of Wesley Road.
Not
Yes.
their front yard.
Not their front end, which is not surprising. So it was a simpler process. It would be a much cheaper process if we went on the south side. But we understand we want to take their feedback back. So we're taking that information with that. I think there's some more exploring that we need to do with the county. So we're figuring out those next steps. So we've shifted the project schedule. We probably will not come to with a final scope of work for what that engineering will look like probably until June. So the neighbors did say too, they want another public meeting to be able to talk more specifically about the project and give us more feedback. So we're looking at more coordination with the county and more coordination with the neighbors prior to finalizing the results of that feasibility study and looking at a scope.
Winding in the trees.
Huh?
Winding in the trees on Westwood.
Well, and I think that's where we need to really look at.
Depends on where
You're gonna be,
So-
the golf balls winding in the trees.
Well,
obviously.
the nets are 60 feet back from the back of curb. This would probably be within the first 20 feet behind curb. So yes, some of those trees certainly will be there. Some of them may not be. Some of them are being removed already from the standpoint of buckthorn removal and forest preserve removals. If you see those big red X's, that's forest preserve. That's going to be removing a number of those trees in addition to what's already been removed. So there's space for it. And with the netting in place, there would also, there's also expected to be another perimeter fence on the south side of that net. So keeping folks back from it even further.
Oh, I mean, it's a feasibility study, so there's a lot more to look into. But we're just trying to do all that initial coordination so that if we do proceed forward into that phase one engineering, we feel like we have good grasp on what the challenges are.
Buckthorn was amazing.
Yes.
This path is ultimately supposed to go all the way out to hook up with the existing. The north side, right?
Yeah, the sidewalk along
Right.
Green Bay, yeah. So, and that's what this feasibility study looked at too, is are we looking for a 5-foot sidewalk? Are we looking for a multi-use path, which would be wider to accommodate both bicycle and pedestrian traffic? How would that impact?
So
If you're,
let me just say, this is, so the south side is Glencoe.
Mhm.
But the north side is the forest preserve. And as I understand it, we have, at this point, no arrangement with forest preserve. So
No, but I would say it isn't all forest preserve. It's only forest preserve west of Hofeller. So east of Hofeller, we actually have sufficient village right of way to accommodate it. The good thing about that generally, the good thing about that is we're talking about 800 to 900 lineal feet of pathway as opposed to the entire length of it being on forest preserve property. So that's I've already had some conversations with Forest Preserve staff about this. We're gonna be sending them more information in the next few days to just try to continue the conversation and keep it rolling forward. But this was likely to be something that is gonna find its way to to the land use committee that the Forest Preserve District has. It generally falls within their approved uses because it's a pathway system. They like connectivity, but it's also not on their radar formally. So
Is this something that might not be poured concrete? Or it
Yeah.
might be, crushed gravel?
probably not likely to be
Like-
concrete, probably asphalt or crushed or aggregate.
But I'm thinking crushed something because like the bike path going up to,
Green Bay Trail.
yeah, right.
It could be something, and that's
We're
all
looking
what,
at
that.
yep,
Might actually look nicer if you're meandering.
Right.
That wouldn't be more expensive than the full set, it would be cheaper. than the full
Should be a
sidewalk.
lot, yeah, especially if
I
it's
thought you said they were
meandering, I
gonna
bet
be
it's a
more
lot cheaper.
expensive.
No,
on the north
it's
side, but I
bigger.
misunderstood.
Right, we're talking about,
anything that's bigger, and I
Oh,
think
yeah, the trees
the
and
most significant cost that comes from the north side is tree impact fees.
potentially, yes. Yeah.
So that is a big.
Which is what we're trying to avoid as much as possible.
Yeah, so
Hence
it's
the-
really
Hence the
meandering.
meandering, yeah, hence the meandering,
Yeah.
yeah, but that's an aspect of it for sure. We want to make sure that there's ADA compliance that's got to be compacted enough so that it works for ADA accessibility, things like that, but
Maybe grant opportunities for.
there
that.
absolutely would be.
Invest in Glencoe.
I've already shared, that was one of the things that I've shared with the Forest Preserve District, that we would very much like to be able to partner on a grant application for projects like this.
All right. The next project is the pedestrian crossing improvements at Harbor and Green Bay Road. This is for the audible pedestrian signals and the EVP, which is the emergency vehicle. I'm missing the P, but signal upgrades at this intersection. We went out to bid. I had thought we were going to be ready to present an award a contract. Nobody responded to our bid. I know. So we've made a few phone calls and we're going to try again. Our longstanding relationship with one of the expected bid responders just said they missed our deadline. So we're hoping that we will bid again, but they won't. We're also hoping that we'll have more competition, but really this is a small pool that we're looking at. So hoping that timing proves to be better with the results. All right, the bridge maintenance, construction, and engineering for Hazel and Lakewood, we're still coordinating with our consultants. So we'll hopefully have that ready for you in May. We've also shifted the timeline on our server and other network infrastructure upgrades to have more time for planning and scoping. So we're looking for potentially something to bring forward to you in May or June. And then there's a lot of them. Okay, public safety, the boat rescue replacement is currently out to bid, so that shifted a month as well. So we'll be bringing that for your approval in May.
Closes
Yes,
Friday.
okay. The patrol vehicle, 652, that was had gone to the village board for approval. However, the delivery of that we thought was gonna happen in March. We've shifted that expectation to this fall. We still haven't received a VIN number, so we think that may be delayed.
Oh.
Yeah. And then the last one is the sewer SCADA consulting and OT equipment upgrades. We're still finalizing that scope, and hopefully we'll be able to go out to RFP and have something to present to the village board in June or July. Any questions on all those schedule changes?
Thank you very much. All right. Unless there is any other business that anyone would like to bring up, I give a motion to adjourn, please.
Second.
All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.